44144. Alex Heels. And we're going to be sharing information about what comes after this throughout the community. So throughout the night, as you want to connect and find out what you can do after this, if you will sign up there and we'll give the information to you. Okay, so I thought I would begin by introducing Reverend Waters, who is a minister here in the city of Alexandria, and he is going to offer a quick invocation for this event.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I think that it's important for all of us to recognize that this is a sacred moment, and this is a historic moment in the city of Alexandria. Because it is so, I prepared some invoking remarks, and then after I provide these remarks of invocation, I would like to also offer some heartfelt remarks as well. I would invite us at this time to enter into a moment of silence. We stand here today at the corner of North Fairfax and King Street to bear witness and give voice to the 120-year-old reports published in the Alexandria Gazette and the Richmond Planet detailing the extrajudicial racial terror lynching of Benjamin Thomas, a 20-year-old African-American resident, by a white mob, and Joseph McCoy. Joseph McCoy was lynched on a lamppost at Lee and Cameron on the 23rd of April in 1897. Benjamin Thomas was lynched on this day in this location in 1899. At least 12 African-American residents assembled together in an attempt to stop this second act of domestic terrorism and spectacle. And we'll read their names later. These 12 courageous men were arrested for attempting to incite a riot. They were fined between $10 to $20 or sent to serve 30 days on the chain gang. And we realized that $10 to $20 in 1899 was quite a bit. These men were arrested, but their charges were dismissed. The invocation that I offer uses the term Lord of all. I'm quite aware and respectful of other traditions, but the term Lord of all in this instance is referring to a higher power that we all recognize. And for those who do not recognize any formal higher power, whatever you do hold sacred in your understanding and your being, I hope that you would draw strength from that as I share this and these remarks. We gather here on this day to commemorate the lives of Benjamin Thomas and Thomas McCoy. We gather here to also recall this difficult event in human history, culminating in the racial terror lynching of Benjamin Thomas on this day in this location 120 years ago, and Thomas McCoy 2 years earlier. We gather here to honor the brave civil advocates who risked their lives to defend peace and equal justice under the law for Benjamin Thomas. We will read the names of individuals, as I mentioned earlier, who risked their personal safety in order to see that justice would be done. Lord of all, we gather here also to promote truth and reconciliation and healing in our community. May similar community commemorations acknowledging injustice serve as a healing balm and help transform us into the instruments of kindness and compassion we are now being challenged to be here in the city of Alexandria. Take away the arrogance and hatred which infect our hearts and minds. Break down the walls that separate us. Unite us in bonds of love and help us work through our struggle and confusion to accomplish your purposes for us individually and collectively, so that at your appointed time, we will be the city we envision we can be going forward, to include city residents who strive to overcome the effects of lynching in all forms, political, social, economic, racial, gender, and the list can continue, at all times and in all places. And to this we say, as family here in Alexandria, Amen.
Amen.
Now, the heartfelt remarks that I will share at this time is that we are blessed with individuals here in the 21st century who are also willing to risk. And I know that Adrian would not want, say, a light to shine on her or for Tamara, but we have two individuals that are responsible for this day. And I think that they deserve a round of applause for undertaking this event to help us be the people that we are destined to be. Amen. And I see a city council person here, and for those who may not know, our city council in November of 2016 penned a letter identifying Alexandria as a city of what? Kindness and compassion. So, mistress of kindness and compassion, I turn the mic over to you.
Thank you so much. So, again, I want to thank everyone for coming out. The crowd is a little bigger than I was expecting, and I'm glad to see us all out here. As we grow in the crowd, as people arrive, if we could make sure that we're keeping the sidewalks and the stairs clear for people to come and go as they move through the city. So, thank you, Reverend Walters. So there are several people here today, but I just wanted to read on behalf of the City of Alexandria, presented by the mayor and the members of the City Council of the City of Alexandria. This proclamation says, whereas the August 12th, 1899, Richmond Planet reported that within sight of the Capitol at Washington, within 8 miles of the official residence of the President of the United States, Tuesday, August 8th, 1899, in the city of Alexandria, on the soil of Old Virginia, the naked body of a man, a colored man, was seen hanging from a lamppost. And that very scene occurred 120 years ago today in our city. Whereas he was Benjamin Thomas, a 20-year-old, and he was imprisoned and charged with an alleged crime for which he was never tried. Thomas was pulled out of the jail at Princess and Asaph Streets and dragged with a rope around his neck through Old Town by a mob numbering 2,000 to a street corner at the time known as Ledbetter's Corner. His clothes were torn off. He was shot several times and then hanged street side. In the midst of these atrocities, 12 African-American men stepped forward to protect him. They too were arrested. And whereas between 1882 and 1968, 100 Virginians, including at least 11 in Northern Virginia, were lynched. The lynchings were among 4,743 reported nationwide during the same period. Just 2 years earlier, Joseph McCoy was lynched on a lamppost at Lee and Cameron Streets. Lynching was never a federal offense. And whereas the city of Alexandria condemns such acts and seeks to inform all of our past and our history and bear witness to them in our minds and in the minds of others, and that martyrs such as Benjamin Thomas and Joseph McCoy will never be forgotten. Now, therefore, I, Justin M. Wilson, Mayor of the City of Alexandria, Virginia, and on behalf of the Alexandria City Council, do hereby recognize today, August 8th, 2019, as a day for us to remember the life, spirit, and legacy, exactly 120 years later, of the death of Benjamin Thomas. In the city of Alexandria, and I call this observance to the attention of all of our citizens, so that the city of Alexandria continue to always place first and foremost the rights of all humanity, so that our city may be an example for all. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of Alexandria to be affixed this 8th day of August, 2019, and it's signed by Mayor Justin M. Wilson. So, I will now be reading the newspaper articles that were published reporting this incident, the Alexandria Gazette, as well as the Richmond Planet. The Alexandria Gazette, Tuesday evening, August the 8th, 1899. Indecent conduct. Benjamin Thomas, a colored, was arrested yesterday evening by officers Knight and Wilkinson, charged with attempting to commit an assault on Lily Clark, a little 7-year-old white girl living at 702 North Patrick Street. The mayor directed Officer Knight to quietly arrest and continue Thomas in the station house until this morning at 9 o'clock, and that officer with policeman Wilkinson carried out the orders so well that few citizens knew of the matter. The colored people, however, early in the night began to congregate on corners and boisterously commenting on some imaginary report of a proposed lynching, caused the crowds of colored men to become larger and more boisterous. Toward 12 o'clock, most of the white citizens, in the meantime, remaining totally unaware of any excitement. The mayor was on the streets until after 12 o'clock, conversing with numbers of citizens, and heard no comment or remark concerning the arrest. About 12:15 o'clock, a party of colored men went to the mayor's house and on behalf asked why they had come at that hour. and they wanted protection for the prisoner at the station house. The mayor told them to get off the street and go home, as they would be arrested. If they did not do so, that no one was threatening the prisoner, and that the colored people themselves were creating all the excitement. At 1 o'clock, Lieutenant James Smith called on the mayor and reported large congregations of colored men in the vicinity of the station house. He was directed to take men from the street, order the colored men to disperse, and if they refused, to arrest them and lock them up. The lieutenant promptly carried out the orders, and the disturbance was at an end. This morning, as was seen from the police report, the parties causing the disturbance were punished. The mayor took occasion to say that the case exhibited the most remarkable condition of affairs. A man accused of a heinous offense, quietly arrested, and white citizens of the community, unknown of any trouble and attempting to demonstrate, and yet colored men with a boisterous display of regard for the safety of one of their own race, mostly congregate and recklessly invite a catastrophe. The trial of Thomas elicited the fact that he took indecent liberties with the little girl, and the mayor, on the evidence, sent the case on to the grand jury. Lily Clark's evidence was that she was drawn into the door by Thomas, who was sitting on the outdoor side of the house steps, and took indecent liberties with her, but that he committed no assault, and that she pulled away from him and informed her mother of the matter. The child was the only witness examined. After the examination of Thomas, Mayor Simpson was a pistol taken from one of the Negroes during the night. In some manner that the weapon was discharged. And the ball from it entered the wall in the office. The report was heard in the street, and it was the origin of spectacle and the rumors heard about the city as to the illicit that Thomas had attempted to escape and had been shot at by one of the officers. Apprehending no trouble, the mayor had deemed it best to take all precautions against any excitement which might arise over above the affair. He therefore today directed the chief to select 4 trustworthy members of the police force for duty at the jail tonight. The mayor has supplemented these by the appointment of 10 guards who will also be stationed at the lockup during the night. Chief Webster will proceed with his men to the jail at sundown this evening and remain there until tomorrow morning. And should any ill-advised movement be made, every means will be resorted to in order to protect the prisoner. Officers repaired immediately to the scene, previous to which the Negroes decamped and made themselves scarce the remainder of the night. Thomas this morning was placed in jail, and the mayor has taken every precaution to prevent any overt act on the part of many who are naturally exasperated at the Negroes Act. The crime is a capital offense, and of course, the majority of people would prefer letting the law take its course. No serious trouble is apprehended. This is the report of the police court. Mayor G.L. Simpson presiding. The following cases were disposed of this morning. Benjamin Thomas, colored, charged with attempting to assault a child of Edward Clark and was sent to the grand jury. Harry Robinson, charged with disorderly conduct, was dismissed. Daniel Weeks, charged with being drunk and disorderly, was fined $5. James Turley, Edward Gibson, Alfred Mason, Harry MacDonald, all colored, charged with disorderly conduct and carrying concealed weapons, were fined $20 each or given 30 days on the chain gang. Albert Green and Alan Carter, both colored, charged with disorderly conduct and attempting to incite a riot, were fined $20 each or given 30 days on the chain gang. Robert Buckner, John Haskins, James Alexander, and Edward Payne, all colored, charged with disorderly conduct and attempting to incite a riot, were fined $10 each and given 30 days on the chain gang. John Nelson and William Washington, both colored, charged with disorderly conduct and attempting to incite a riot. Charges were dismissed. And so this is the report from the Richmond Planet. From Saturday, August the 12th, 1899. A lynching in Alexandria. Brutalizing scenes almost at the nation's capital. White men become fiends. They revel in the blood of their victim, colored men, organize and are dispersed. Mayor Simpson's duplicity, the guarantees of law cast aside. Alexandria, Virginia, August 8th, dragged for a third of a mile through the streets of this city with a rope around his neck, a howling mob of 2,000 people hooting and jeering, discharging firearms about him. Ben Thomas, a colored youth of 20 years, was hanged tonight at midnight to a lamppost on Ledbetter's Corner. Indignant citizens in this tragic manner meted out punishment for an indecent assault committed yesterday on Lily, the 8-year-old daughter of Mr. Edward Clark. The affair was accompanied with many revolting incidents, and for the second time within 2 years, this ancient metropolis of the Old Dominion, almost within the shadow of the national capital, has contributed a genuine lynching sensation for the country. Certainly, but once before during many years, that was when colored man McCoy was lynched for a similar crime. Has excitement run high in Alexandria? The assurance of a lynching during the night was enforced by rumors that colored men were preparing to offer armed resistance if an attempt was made to take Thomas from the jail. The assault was absorbing the topic of conversation. Early in the day, citizens began to arm themselves. The stock of firearms and ammunitions in this city were exhausted, and expeditions were made to Washington to increase supply. Congregated on the street corner Enraged citizens began to congregate in small groups about the street corners, almost as soon as it grew dark. These groups gradually made their way about 11 o'clock towards the jail. The talk was openly made that the colored man was to be taken from his cell by the mob. At the same time, there were excited reports that colored men were gathering on the outskirts of the city to make an invasion. However, by 11:30 o'clock, fully 2,000 determined men had gathered about the jail. Their presence was marked by a notable calm, and there was comparatively little demonstration, save for the occasional firing of a shot or an exclamation to give him up. As the mob grew and its determination was apparent, some of the prominent citizens of the place appeared and tried to persuade the gathering to disperse. Finally, when it was plain that a demand would soon be made for the opening of the jail, Mayor Simpson addressed the excited men, counseling delay until tomorrow, when he promised to immediately call the grand jury and secure a trial in court. Quote, "If they do not tomorrow find an indictment and declare Thomas guilty, I will myself lead you to lynch this man," unquote, declared the mayor. This did not appease the men, who were determined on Thomas's life. The mob surged up to the door of the jail, Mayor Simpson being whisked away from his place as though he was nothing more than a feather. The officers on guard in the jail refused to deliver the prisoner. A long, heavy plank was jammed against the door, which quickly gave way. In the melee that followed, the entrance to the jail, which is on the corner of Princess and St. Aphas Streets, the chief of police, James Webster, was knocked over and considerably, though not seriously, hurt. Brought out wrong man. The search for Thomas began at once. The first man taken out into the corridor was John Dogan, colored. He was found to be the wrong man, and a moment later, Thomas was rushed before the howling throng. Several policemen declared, "This is not the man." Although the rope was at the moment around Thomas's neck. He had been thrown on the floor of the corridor. The protests of the policemen were so vehement that Thomas was given an opportunity to get up, remove the rope from his neck, and walk away. He proceeded down St. Aphas Street for a third of a block, and he hid in the vestibule of the residence of Mr. Sincox. It was not long before lynchers convinced themselves that the escaping prisoner was the one they wanted. Several men darted after him and dragged him from the vestibule. The rope was again placed about his neck. The thoroughly frightened culprit moaning and yelling all the time. In the scuffle that attended these proceedings, nearly all the clothing was torn from his body. Then the strange procession started down St. Aphas Street. Several citizens held the rope by which Thomas was being led to his doom, and thousands of spectators were following close behind. Down St. Aphas Street to King Street, the mob moved rapidly to Ledbetter's Corner. Before a convenient point was found for an execution, there were policemen protesting against the summary punishment, but their words were unheard. In the yelling, the rope was thrown over the lamppost. Willing hands pulled at the loose ends, and in a few moments, Thomas's life went out. The body, after it had been riddled with bullets, was removed to an undertaker's establishment, where it was viewed by thousands. Soon afterwards, the mob dispersed. and there was little disorder about the city. The colored people of the city, who had threatened resistance, were thoroughly cowed, and no demonstrations were made on their part. Excitement early in the day. Considerable excitement reigned in the lower end of town this morning. This was the forerunner to the night's lynching and was occasioned by the appearance of a large and well-organized body of colored men who had gathered from various parts of the city when it became known that Thomas was locked up at the police station on the charge of attempting to criminally assault Lily Clark. The colored men claimed that they had information that an attempt would be made to lynch Thomas, and they did not propose to stand by and see one of their race lynched. They openly avowed their intention of protecting him at all costs. Lieutenant Smith reported the matter to the mayor and was instructed to disperse the mob and arrest all who refused to obey the law. The lieutenant returned, and with a squad of policemen composed of officers Bettis, Beach, Young, Hall, Dean, Howson, Spinks, Lyles, and Atkinson, met the mob and ordered them to disperse. This they refused to do, whereupon Alfred Green, James Turley, Edward Gibson, Alfred Mason, Harry MacDonald, Robert Buckner, Alan Carter, John Haskins, James Alexander, Edward Payne, Richard Washington, and Thomas Ealesley were placed under arrest. Several of the above, when searched, were found to be armed with pistols, butcher knives, razors, and stones. After the arrests were made, the Negroes seemed to think that no attempt would be made to lynch Thomas. They slowly separated and went to their homes. The prisoners were taken before the mayor this morning, when Turley, Gibson, Green, Mason, and MacDonald were fined $20 each for carrying concealed weapons and inciting a riot. The others were fined $10 each on the charge of inciting a riot. After their cases had been disposed of, the case of Benjamin Thomas was called. There was a decided stir in the courtroom when Thomas was brought in between two officers and lodged in the dock. The witnesses against him were Mr. and Mrs. Clark and Lily, the 8-year-old girl upon whom the assault was attempted. Testimony of the parents. Mr. and Mrs. Clark told of sending the little girl to Thomas's house for an axe, and her appearance when she returned. Lily was then placed upon the stand and detailed her visit to the house, saying that when she called, Thomas was sitting inside the hall on the stairs. She asked for the axe, and he seized her, drawing her within the house, and then attempted to assault her. Becoming frightened, she broke from his embrace and fled to her home, where she related the occurrence to her mother. A complaint was at once made, and Thomas arrested a short time afterwards by policemen Knight and Wilkinson. After considering the facts elicited, Mayor Sampson reprimanded Thomas to jail to await the action of the grand jury. Thomas was removed to the jail at 12 o'clock and was followed by a number of his race. Feeling against him reached a high point during the day, and the authorities were apprehensive of trouble. Deputy Sergeant Smith, who in the absence of Sergeant William H. Smith has charge of the jail, called on the Chief of Police Webster in the afternoon
and requested that a squad of police be stationed at the jail at night. The request was granted, and in addition to the chief of police and 4 policemen were ordered to guard the jail, the mayor appointed a special squad of 10 to act. This force, however, as tonight's determined affair proved, was wholly inadequate to prevent the lynching. Lily Clark is an exceedingly intelligent girl for her age, and the straightforward manner for which she related the occurrence of this morning impressed many persons who were within hearing distance of her. This is an editorial op-ed from the Richmond Planet, published August the 12th, 1899. It is reported that the white people of Alexandria fear an uprising of the colored people and are telegraphing for rifles. It is the case of guilty conscience. If the colored folk did not rise up before Thomas was lynched, they will not do so after. They are big talkers. Perhaps all of this talk is preliminary to the killing of more colored people. If Mayor Simpson had not promised the protection to Thomas and fined the colored men who were ready to go to his defense, the city of Alexandria would not now be disgraced by a lynching so cowardly that a cur dog would have been ashamed to have participated. This is another editorial from the Richmond Planet, published August the 12th, 1899. Lynching at Alexandria. Within sight of the Capitol, as Washington, within 8 miles of the official residence of the President of the United States, Tuesday, August 8th, 1899, in the city of Alexandria, on the soil of Old Virginia, the naked body of a man, a colored man, was seen hanging from a lamppost. He had been lynched by some of the best citizens of this quaint old town. And in the presence of hundreds of spectators, Benjamin Thomas was charged with attempted criminal assault upon a white girl. As to his guilt or innocence, it was a question for the law to decide. Under the statutes of Virginia, he could have been legally hanged if adjudged guilty. But the pitiful spectacle was presented of a mayor and a sworn executive officer of the city of Alexandria, pleading with the mob and pledging that if Thomas was not tried, convicted, and hanged in 30 days, he would lead the mob of murderers to take Thomas's life. How could he make this promise? Was he not sworn to recognize all men before the law? Was he not sworn to that law, sworn to see that the laws are respected and that all the guarantees of the conditions of the state of Virginia were vouchsafed the humblest citizen? We are pleased to notice the attitude of the colored men of Alexandria in organizing to prevent a lynching. Our only regret is they did not go further and be more combative. Was there ever a greater parody upon justice than the sight of citizens of Alexandria, colored citizens, hauled before a white mayor and fined $20 for doing their duty? Mayor Simpson is a disgrace to the office. He is a sworn official of the law, fining other citizens who were anxious to see the laws upheld. He said that the lynchers would be severely dealt with. Does anybody believe that he will make good on his threat? If they do, let them speak now or forever hold their peace. Oh, what a pity that the colored men dispersed and failed to reassemble again. 500 of them, banded together as one man, would have checked the mob and saved a human life without the shedding of blood. However, they acted manfully. Let colored men in other sections do likewise. Let them defend colored men threatened with lynching, even if they have to sacrifice a dozen lives in so doing. Governor Tyler will be expected to offer a reward for the lynchers of this colored man. He has proven himself conscientious. What may we expect from the executive office at Richmond? Lynching is a growing evil. If the government will not stop it, let the citizens of color try their hand at the job. Lynch law must end. So I'm going to allow you to decide for yourselves what you do with this information. I'm going to allow you to decide where we go as a community from here. My poor little sign. So what I would like to do is share this information with you. What I would like to do is share the upcoming events. We have decided as a community to face our history and to do something to right the wrongs that have happened, not just to Benjamin Thomas, but to Joseph McCoy and the citizens that the message was sent to. So if you will text Alex Heels, Alex as in Alexandria, Alex Heels, to 44144, 44144, and we will share the reports, we will share the upcoming events. The City of Alexandria is hosting a community meeting on the 21st of September to talk about how we move forward with this information as a community. So at this time, I want to thank my good friend Tamara Wellens, and she is going to come and lead us in some sounds. Thank you.
I would like to ask everyone to just, if you will, stand where you are, for those who aren't standing. And we have two songs that we're going to do today. One, it's about overcoming. We shall overcome. So If you would like, you can grab the hand of the person next to you or the arm.
There, you can do it.
Let your voices be heard. We shall overcome. We shall overcome. We shall overcome someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we shall overcome someday. We shall overcome. We shall overcome. We shall overcome someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we shall overcome someday. At this time, I'm going to ask the youth to come. I would like everyone to place your hand over your heart. Thank you, Adrian. Thank you for you all coming here today. We know that peace, reconciliation, and healing, it starts with remembering, commemorating, and taking time. And it starts with you. Can you say, I am light?
I am light.
I am light.
I am light.
You can sing. I am light, I am light. I am light, I am light. I am not the things my family did. I am not the voices in my head. I am not the pieces of the brokenness inside. I am light. I am light. I am light. And we will sing together. I am light. I am light. Oh, I am light. I am light. Oh, I am light. mistakes I have made, or any other thing that caused me pain. I am not the pieces of a dream I left behind. I am light. I am light. I am light. I am light, I am light, oh, I am light, I am light. I am not the color of my eyes, I am not the skin on the outside, I am not my age, I am not my race, my soul inside is all light, all light. I am light, I am light, oh, I am light, I am light. I am divinity divine. I am the God on the inside. I am a star, a piece of it all. I am light. I am light. Ooh.
So before we end, one thing that we meant to do So before we leave tonight, what we want to do is not just remember the lives of Thomas McCoy and Benjamin Thomas, but we really want to lift up the lives of the African American men that stepped into the crowd and said, I will be the one to do the right thing. We don't know what happened to them. We don't know what impact the fine, the night in jail, potentially the chain gang had on them and their families. But we are gathered here tonight to begin the process of healing what has happened. So as we speak the name, and we are standing here at the site of a terrible atrocity, and in the process of beginning to open up to healing, we will be pouring libation to the men. So we speak the name of Joseph McCoy, lynched on a lamppost at Cameron and Lee. We speak the name of Benjamin Thomas, lynched on August 8th, 1899, on a lamppost here at Fairfax and King Street. We speak the names of James Turley, who stepped forward. We speak the names of Alfred Mason, who stepped forward. We speak the name of Albert Green, who stepped forward. We speak the name of Robert Buckner, who stepped forward. We speak the name of James Alexander, who stepped forward. We speak the name of John Nelson, who stepped forward. We speak the name of Edward Gibson, who stepped forward. We speak the name of Harry MacDonald. We speak the name of Alan Carter, who stepped forward. We speak the name of John Haskins, who stepped forward. We speak the name of Edward Payne, who stepped forward. We speak the name of William Washington, who stepped forward. So I thank you all for coming this evening. And I've asked Tamara to close us out with one more song.
Amazing grace shall always be my song of praise, for it was grace that brought my liberty. I do not know just why he came to love me so. He looked beyond my fault and saw my need. I shall forever lift mine eyes to Calvary, to view the cross where Jesus died for me. How marvelous the grace that caught my falling soul. He looked beyond my fault and saw my need. I shall forever lift mine eyes to Calvary, to view the cross where Jesus died for me. How marvelous the grace that caught my falling soul. He looked beyond beyond my fault and saw my need.
Thank you all. So, one more time, to stay in touch, we're texting Alex Heels to 44144. 44144, Alex Heels. And we will continue this conversation. Have a good evening.